What's happening, party people? I am actually home today. I'm supposed to be doing a manual swap this week, but man, it is chilly outside. I don't have a garage to work in on that car, and it is not warming up like I thought it would. It's barely hitting 50 every day, then that's changing and dropping. It's kind of too cool to be getting into a long job like a manual swap outside. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that this week or not. I'm going to talk to the guy a little later today. Besides that, I kind of, was messing around with that S70 for a while last night. I didn't knock that off to about 8:30. It appears that he possibly had a bad alternator installed on that vehicle, and it surged, messed up an ECU. I dropped another ECU in there, suspecting that something was wrong with the ECU, and I think it damaged two of my ECUs. So I'm going to test somebody else's car, but it's keeping number 4 injector open at all times. Even when the battery's disconnected, it's grounding that number 4 injector, and that's how it operates. It sends a good ground to the injector to open it up so it can get its fuel. And as soon as I plug the computer in, that injector gets a ground and the rest don't. So I got to troubleshoot that on another vehicle and see if that's the case. And I may need to get another ECU for his vehicle, but I don't know if he can use that alternator. I don't know if the alternator is still doing that. I kind of think the alternator, when it was first put in, was giving out bad voltage. And then he drove the car around like that for a while, flooding out that cylinder. And I think that may have allowed the alternator to run long enough to clean it up. So it may not be damaging anymore, but that first 50 miles or, hour or so of that alternator running in that car was frying computers. That's what I think anyway. So I'm going to check on, I got a local guy here named Matt. He's going to let me check the ohms on his to see if his number 4 has a ground when the car's not running, and that'll probably cure that curiosity for me. And I even installed a computer and tried to run the car with the alternator disconnected, but I think the damage was already done by then. So anyway, that's what I've been working on. Still got some stuff around here to take care of, and hopefully heading up to Chicago in a few days to help Sebastian and a couple other people. So that's where I'm at. Today's video, I tested the engine that I was going to put in Panther. That was an interesting afternoon. Did not go well. It just kept going downhill. So hope you guys enjoy these clips and learn something about checking out an engine before you drop it in your car. So thanks for watching, and again, please like and subscribe if you hadn't subscribed to the channel. Thanks for your time. And here we are, folks, to get this engine out of storage. Hopefully it's good. We'll test it when we get to the shop. So I'm going to take some stuff out of my car, and we're going to put this in the car. Whoop, whoop. At the storage, we probably put a new lock on it. I cut my lock off because I left my key across town. Got the engine in here tied up so it won't fall over. Time to get out of here. Well, folks, here we are out here in the desert, Las Cruces, New Mexico, about 30 minutes south of Albuquerque, 20 miles as a crow fly. See the mountains over there. Got some Volvo action out here. Got the mountains over there, Sandias. Just getting down here. I wish we was down here 6 hours ago, but it is what it is. Found out I needed some parts for this engine. So we're getting ready to check the engine for compression, check the timing on it, and then start working on getting it ready to go in. The timing parts are not my cup of tea, but if I get it running, I'm gonna get it out of here and deal with this later. Man, this timing on these cams look all kind of whacked up. That one's 2 teeth off. That one's 1 tooth off. I don't know where the crank timing mark is, but I gotta find it. It probably off. So let me put a tool on there and start turning this around till I find that crank mark. See where these cams end up. I got all the plugs out, I think, except one. Need to pull that plug because I want to do a kind of a compression test. It looks like there's oil already down in these cylinders, so hopefully the guy didn't bust the valves on it and I'm down here for nothing. So we'll find out here shortly. He replaced a cylinder head on it. So let's see what we got. First task is to find the crank timing mark and then see where the cams end up. But your exhaust cam, I believe, should be pointing straight up like a triangle, and the intake cam should be pointing straight down like a triangle. Before we get cracking, here's the shop. Man, you could put a lot of cars in here. They got 4 right here, bunch of tools over here, van. I bet you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, at least 11 vehicles in here. So let me get to work. Found the timing mark on the crank. So it's right there. Thought I put a light on this thing, I did. It is right on the mark. Right there. This cam looks good. Arrow pointing up. Right there on the mark. This cam is a tooth off. So you can see the triangle is not far enough. So I probably should make this clockwise just a little bit more. I'm gonna check the cams on the back of the head. I'm not sure if the guy was getting spark or not, but look at that cam sensor plug. That thing was destroyed. That ring is also installed wrong, so he probably wasn't getting spark. It's supposed to be turned 180 degrees. May have been this problem right there, not sparking properly. So let me go ahead and pop that off and show you the error of those ways. All right, so this is really bad. This was actually on correct, but as you can see, that is supposed to be level with the seam of the cylinder head. So that's way off. There's a big chance that all the valves are busted in this head. So let me take this side off and check to see where that timing is. I took the cap off. Now I need to get the rotor off. This is the Bosch rotor, so that's good. That one is close to where it should be. So let me, oh man, cam seal's leaking and ain't got no pressure on there, but I do think I have 2 new rear cam seals with me. Let me take the timing belt loose and put that cam where it belongs. I think that thing is, wow, it's way out. Let me look at where it's supposed to be. I just checked my video, and where your timing is supposed to be, this intake cam is supposed to have the part number on the bottom, which it is, so it's close, but it should be parallel with the seam of the engine. So you see this seam there, that cam should be lined up with that. And right now you see it's kind of pointing at 1 o'clock instead of pointing at 12 o'clock if you look at the top of that. So the top of here should be at 12 o'clock. That seam should be equal. It's just off a little bit. But this exhaust cam, the part number should be up top. This should be up top. So we are like 95 degrees off on the timing. And on the front, the triangle on the exhaust should be pointing up. The triangle on the intake should be pointing down. However, somebody took this cam sprocket off and put it on in the wrong orientation. So this thing is got to be turned this way. That whole thing's messed up. So I doubt this thing has good head. So let me go ahead and pull a belt and put the tool on this and see if I could turn this cam back till this one is 12 o'clock, which should line it up in the back. Then I'll see if I got compression, because I'll put the belt back on. But I doubt it. This guy was trying to start this car with this timing off. Like someone pulled this camshaft sprocket off and put it back on and not in the right position. So that pin being up, this engine being orientated, these bolts are normally lined straight up and down. This engine is normally pitched a little bit when it's installed in the car. So this would kind of be 12 o'clock. Should put your cams right. Let me break that loose right there. Do-do-do. Now let me see if I could turn this thing clockwise. Dreaming. Find a big screwdriver to do that. Pry bar will work. If it fits in here, yeah, it'll work. Oh. Man, it went right over there. Now, when you have your crank, excuse me, I should have said this before. When you have your crank on the mark, you could turn these cams around, both of them, all the way around without any valve contact. So I should have just mentioned that and known I could turn this around without any valve contact, because the crank is on the mark and that pulls all the pistons down far enough so that the cams could turn around 360. This piston is not top dead center. A lot of people talk about that because that's how a lot of older vehicles are timed. These are timed by marks, so you can do stuff like this. Put this on the mark, you can turn both of these cams around 360. So this is actually should be lined up now. Let me turn this one a little bit so that this arrow points up, this arrow points down, and we go in the back, it should be perfectly lined up. So let's go in the back of the engine and check it out. So here we are. We got that exhaust cam perfectly lined up. You see how the seam in the cam is parallel with the line, seam in the head. This intake one is not quite there yet. I'm gonna turn that back just a little bit more to get that right. So let me turn that back a little more. I need to go just a little bit more, and it'll be perfect. And there you have it. Now we have a special tool. We call it a cam locking tool. We put that tool on here and it keeps these locked in this position so that they don't move from compression or spring tension or anything like that. And then you put the belt on the front with this locked up in the back, and then you could just put new marks on your cam sprockets. Once you release the tension, roll it around, double check this, you put marks on the front of the engine to make sure that your timing is set by the marks. So right now, when I put this cover up here, you see that intake cam is right on its mark. It's perfect. We don't need to redo that one. This exhaust cam, we need to erase that mark there and put a mark by right here. We could use a punch and punch a mark on there, or we could paint it on there like they did here, or we could take this sprocket off and put it on there that way, but that's not necessary. We can just mark it with a paint or a punch and then just brush that one off with a wire brush. So you take 360 and you divide it by 3, you get 120. since this screw was up here, he was 120 degrees off. So my guess is somebody pulled the cam sprocket off to replace the cam seal behind the sprocket. And the cam moved while the sprocket was off. And when they got the seal in, they got the orientation wrong putting the sprocket back on, because they either didn't know that the cam turned or they didn't know how much it turned, and they put it on the wrong orientation, 120 degrees off, and then put the rest of the engine together and tried to start the car. Now, if they would have used the cam locking tool before pulling these cam sprockets off, that would not have happened to them. Also, if they would have marked the nipple that goes through these sprockets with some kind of marking, either etched it in or scratched it with a razor or put Sharpie or something on there, if the cam turned inside the head, they would have known the orientation going back on and got this straightened out. At any rate, they didn't use any safeguards, so they made a mistake and reinstalled that cam sprocket 120 degrees off onto the cam. So we'll see how that pans out for me. But let me go ahead and get this belt back on here and see if we have compression. Now these timing belt tensioners, hydraulic tensioners, you got to compress them slowly. I do a turn every 30 seconds, like 180 degrees on that, until that's compressed all the way in. If you just drive it in, you could break the seal in there, then it'll leak. They got a tool that Volvo would load them in, and it would compress that in about 5 minutes. So that's about 30 seconds. So let me make a turn on that. And every turn I make is a little tight, but go ahead and crank that in. And I normally keep a couple of pins in my toolbox. So let me grab a pin, get ready to pin it. Got to pin it from the other side, because this gets bolted on the engine this way. There it is. I got it compressed. I got no oil in there, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and install the timing belt. All right, so we're gonna put this timing belt back on. I'm gonna set this tensioner in place since I got it all compressed. You could actually go ahead and totally install this. It's easy to do out here. It takes you minutes. When you come fighting for space with it installed, it takes longer. Oh, they stripped that bolt out. That ain't good. So that's another thing, and that's actually screws in the block. So that block needs to be tapped out or do something to stop that screw from coming out, because somebody stripped that out. This one here did tighten down. So only torque these to about, man, they're 12mm bolts, about 18 foot-pounds, I think is the torque value on that. So you put the belt here, you pull the belt up as tight as you can, you hook it on this cam here. See, this cam is off a little bit, but you put it there. I'm gonna have to turn that a little bit to make the belt tight. I really should take these bolts loose instead of doing that, so that I can make that tight, because the marks on the back are perfect. So I'm gonna loosen this cam sprocket here. Really shouldn't use power tools in this stuff, because you mess around and over tighten something. All right, so I got that tight there. Pull it tight across the other cam. It dropped on perfect. Then you take it under the water pump. Let me take it under the water pump first. under the water pump. And now up over that. Okay, so your slack is here, not up here. So I could tighten this down here now, but I want to check the back, make sure the back of the cam is still aligned. It's off just a little bit. So let me turn that just a little bit before I tighten that down. These up here, you tighten these to like 7 or 8 foot-pounds. Didn't want that thing to turn, but it did. Check the back again. Need to turn that up just a little bit. So the cam is grabbing onto the cam sprocket. It's not wanting to turn without the... All right, there it goes. I got it loose. Actually, I wonder if that thing is off center, off from where it's supposed to be. That's good. That's good. That's like perfect. All right. Tighten these on with a 1/4 inch drive. You should be good. And a couple of fingers. I think I do it with my 1/4 inch drive. Here it is. It's the softener. All right, now that we're here, you can pull this pin out. Get a bigger screwdriver to do that. Now that puts tension on the belt. Now we can roll the engine over until we get this mark back here and this crank mark back where it is. And then we'll check the marks in the back. We'll check the slots in the back of the cam. 2 revolutions on this crank is 1 revolution on the cabs. So there we are, we're coming back up here. Oh, I went too far. You really should keep going around if you go too far. Shouldn't go backwards. Should be right on the money. Let me check it with my flashlight. Yep, right on the money. So I come in the back, make sure the back is still straight across, and it is. The part number is up on the exhaust cam, down on the intake cam. Now, we should be able to do a compression test, see if we got any bent valves. I suspect that since the guy had the timing 120 degrees off, that there's probably several bent valves. It's hard to check it other than doing a compression test. So I'm gonna take all the spark plugs out. I'm gonna air out those holes. Then I'm gonna put oil in them so that we get a wet test. And then I'm gonna roll the engine around and check the compression. I don't know if a impact gun could turn that crank fast enough to do a compression test, but hey, I might try that. Since I tried clearing a plumbing drain with a shop vac. Since this engine has been sitting for a few years, at least 2, I'm going to wet the pistons. And I blew out all the spark plug hole areas into the pistons to blow out any dust or dirt that may have been in there. So take a small oil cap, put a cap full in each one, let it sit about a minute, and then roll the engine around a couple times to get that oil on each cylinder wall, and then you should be ready to do your wet compression test. A little bit more. All right. Down the chute. Up. It only takes a little bit. Heck, a half a cap might be enough to wet those cylinder walls. Yeah, do a half a cap. All right, that's good, thanks. Now I'm gonna roll the engine around and wet that, and then do a compression test. You can actually roll this over by hand, and you should get compression. Man, wet, you should probably get between 60 and 90. So let me roll this over by hand a whole 2 revolutions, see if I got anything. You can give air for compression gauges. I've seen people have these gauges brand new were 30% low. So just turning that thing over by hand, I got 50 PSI, which tells me there's no valves bent there. I'm gonna bleed it off and let you watch me do it. We got 60 on the second cylinder. 2 good, 3 to go. Here we are on cylinder 3, and I feel resistance. How much you got? 40. Oh, we got 50. We're probably 50. Good. Let's check 4 and 5. Yeah. We got 50 on 4, 1 to go. Man, I don't know how we missed the bullet. If this thing was 120 degrees out on the cam. We're on the last one here. 4 checked good. Oh, there it is. I got resistance. 60 PSI. Somehow this cam was 120 degrees out and didn't bend any valves. We are good to go. Now that we know the timing is set, I could double check it. I've already double checked it. We can go ahead and put this rebounder on. That goes in there like this. You can't see this when the engine's installed in there. Man, that thing's hard to get in sometimes. And it's installed. We're ready to rock and roll. Time to get some of this stuff set up to get this other engine out and put it on here. First thing I'm gonna do is take off that flex plate because I gotta put a flywheel on there. Get all the bolts out of it. Now I gotta pry it off. Pry bar. And it looked like they put a new rear main seal in there. They lubricated it, that's for sure. I don't know if they put a new pilot bearing in, but I never do that. I'm gonna clean up the mating surface of this engine to the transmission so that I get good ground contact. Then I'm gonna replace these cam seals because they're not Volvo. I got 2 of those. And then we're gonna get that little hose off of that coolant thing and keep moving forward. I got the mating surface cleaned off, that's good. This intake manifold has EGR on it. My vehicle does not. So I'm gonna take that intake manifold off and put my intake manifold on there. And then I said I'm gonna get these cam seals replaced. Got the intake manifold off. It's probably a good thing it was not on tight. Looks like it has a Volvo gasket on it though. And knock sensor wires are cut off. So I'm gonna check the position of the knock sensor wires. The good thing is that PCV tube is Volvo, and this one is in really good shape. It's nice and soft, but it's not all the way down on it. So I'm gonna push that down I'm not gonna try to service the PCV system. Looks like the valves were cleaned off, the carbon on the intake ones anyway. Let me check the exhaust ones. I'm gonna put something in this hole. I'm gonna blow this dirt off from around here. Fill up those holes. Just blow the dirt off. Yeah, those valves, exhaust valves, still have carbon buildup on them. So they didn't clean those off. They might have just dropped the head on here without rebuilding the head. Yeah, I don't see any evidence that this head's been rebuilt. So maybe they just put another head on here they got from somewhere. Man, I don't know. He said he rebuilt this head. This thing might have a blown head. If this is, unless he got a whole different engine. He might have had a different engine from somewhere. Let's go with that. Took a running engine from somewhere. All right, I'm gonna replace these heater hoses. So let me get those off. Get that hose off of there. These don't feel too bad. I might leave those on there. They don't feel too bad. But I gotta get this off because it was cut. Well, I have a new concern. I know the guy had a blown head. I believe he told me he rebuilt the head on this, but that doesn't seem to be the case because this thing hadn't been rebuilt. I don't see any new anaerobic sealing. A lot of things I don't see that you typically see on the head that was rebuilt. So I'm guessing he got a head from somewhere. Now that's the sign that the head was in a milling. But, of course, the timing was off. That may be because he decided to put new timing stuff on there and screwed that up. However, I pulled a coolant pipe, the turbo supply coolant pipe, and a bunch of rust came out of that pipe. So I pulled a little hose off here and rust fell down there. Bad sign. So I looked in this pipe. There's rust in there, bad sign. Then I looked in the thermostat housing, bad sign, and there was something in there. Then I seen a leaf in there, so I decided to put a vacuum cleaner on there to try to suck the leaf out. And man, a bunch of dust came out of there, rusty dust. So my guess is somebody blew the head on this engine and they kept driving it and kept adding water, adding water, adding water. And this is where they're at. So this engine probably needs a head. I'm a little skeptical about moving forward with rust there. I've never seen rust in these areas on a Volvo before. That's a sign that somebody's been running water. I could pull the water pump off and see if there's rust behind there. But there's rust in all these coolant pipes. So let me take a break, think about where I'm going from here. And that's the sky you get in New Mexico. Look at those colors. I decided, man, I want to do this right. I don't want to put an engine in there and then have to come back and do something else to it within 10, 15,000 miles. And with this rust and stuff in these pipes, it may have a warped head. So I'm going to pull the cylinder head, send it to the machine shop, and get it back from the machine shop, rebuild it, and put it back on, then install it in the car. And that's a task for another day. So let me go ahead and put it where we're going to leave the block at and take this head off of it. I'm also going to get the things I need for it, like the NA cams, Volvo water pump, and the right parts that I like to use. I really don't like having aftermarket parts on here. like that. That's probably correct, but that water pump is not Volvo, so let's move it and strip it down. Decided to let my camera roll while I removed the cam cover from this cylinder head, and I like to use some kind of template for storing my screws. I was using my Henry, and man, that thing was slow compared to my Danny, so I switched to my Danny and ripped those screws out a lot faster, and it was pretty quick getting those screws out. And again, it's okay to remove screws with impacts or using the speed of a power tool, but it is not good using these power tools to reinstall stuff that has low torque tolerances. It's easy to strip out holes like somebody did with this engine on that hydraulic tensioner bolt hole. You got a cam cover spreader?
Let me ask Robert. Robert! Robert's gonna come out of here in a minute.
All right. I don't need it now.
Huh? You got it?
Yeah.
Right here. There it is. It's being hung up on the cam. Okay, but it's up right here. There it goes.
Oh.
That was what? That's all.
Oh, I probably broke it up here. I did. I broke it all the way off.
You broke what?
I forgot to be careful.
What'd you break off?
That cam, front of that head.
Oh.
I forgot to check that. I forgot to make sure when you lift these up, you gotta lift this up, keep the cam down, then take it off. I lifted the cam up and broke that totally off. This will still hold it, but it ain't ideal. Chunks.
It's aluminum, that's why.
I forgot to make sure I got the cover up and kept the cam down. Worrying about the back. I don't know if I want to even use the head now. It'll still hold it.
It will?
Yeah. And I don't know if it'll let more oil through there or not. Wasn't paying attention, got focused in on trying to get the back of the cam cover off the back of the cam and forgot the front. Lifted the cam up from the back and busted the cam lobe thing off the front of the head.
Both sides or one side?
Just this one. Well, see, it took about a piece off of there and a piece off of there.
Yeah, I see.
I don't think that's the end of the world. I didn't break that side, but I did break that side. I've told people to go ahead and run it like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and run it. I'm not gonna worry about it. Let me see what kind of lifters this thing has. Let me grab a magnet and then pull those bolts out of there. Got all the head bolts broke loose. Me and Phil had to do it together. All these lifters out, they're the old style lifters, so I don't want them. I pulled that bolt out of there. I'm gonna get these exhaust studs out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm missing 3 and all the nuts. And I got those 2 bolts out of there. I'll be ready to lift this head off. I could actually lift the head off right now since I got this bolt out right here. Okay, we got the head off, and I don't see any tracks where it was crossing in between, but you can see where rusty water's been collecting in here. Look at all that. So you want to look in the cylinder and make sure there's cross hatching, which there is. You can see the circular motions in there. And I guess that's how much oil a half a cap is. More than I thought. I put a whole cap in that one and almost a whole cap in that one. But I blew some of that out. But yeah, that's your cross hatching. That's good. That should mean you should have real good compression. Rings shouldn't be worn. So you want to get a rag, wipe in there, the oil loads up, set this aside until you get your head back from the machine shop. Whenever you remove a head and you got a piston that's clean, that's likely where coolant was getting in. But I'm not sure if that was the issue I'm talking about. This carbon on top of these pistons is a little loose, which means it should clean off easy. They say you shouldn't clean these piston tops off with nothing real abrasive because there's supposed to be a coating on top of the pistons. I recently heard that on a video. I'm gonna ask the machine shop and ask them how true that is. But other than that, we oiled up the walls. We're gonna put this aside until we get back with a good cylinder head. We look down in the channels and man, there is stuff down in these water channels. I gotta blow that out, vacuum it out. That goes down to the water pump right there. So that definitely gotta be cleaned out before we put this head back on. All right, we're done for today. This is supposed to have a hole in the gasket. This is a non-turbo head gasket. The turbo head gaskets have a little hole there. So this car's may have had a cylinder head at one time.
I'll read it to you.
All right, there's the part number there to see if these are the NA cams. Here's Phil's current work in progress. He has a customer's car down here doing brake lines and what else you doing to this thing? Look like it's got
The front end suspension.
power steering, okay. Tie rod ends, anti-sway bar links. It's the red block, baby. Rear wheel drive. Shaft going back. Oh, this is a manual.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a little fuel leak somewhere back here. Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody cut the springs.
Change brake pads out.
Got the springs out of their seats up there.
Yeah.
Rear brake pads.
Got the axle leaking over here. Got the bearing in the axle leaking, so we got to change that out.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's fluid in there?
Yeah, this one right here. Okay. See the drain?
Okay.
There's the drain there. The Phillips on the other side.
And fluid goes through the axle?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's gearbox.
Gearbox with electric overdrive. Yeah.
Nice. Shifter linkage up there.
This is interesting. See this blue wire behind you, Robert? See
Clutch cable.
this blue wire?
Yeah.
Okay, because this has cruise
It's
control.
twisted.
So yeah, you follow it, and there's a sensor. It's a magnetic sensor. And see this little lobe right here?
That's what it picks
spins.
up for?
Yeah.
To detect the speed.
Yep.
Wow.
Brake pads got changed out. Struts got changed out in the strut tubes. New hoses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot you take them out of the tubes.
Yeah. Ball joints got changed out. And put these, and got new brake lines. The rear brake lines go in tomorrow.
Cool.
Control arms these are gonna be dropped out because I got the new bushings for the.
Oh,
let's
man.
Swap them out. We're gonna drop these out here, and then put the ones that have already been pressed in, the new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week, these dog ones here, these are gonna be
Okay.
taken out. See, those are gonna be replaced.
And this is the rear end sway bar here.
Yes, not IPD.
No, it's stock.
It's stock.
Finger thick.
And then the bushings that's going to be sitting, that sits in here, will be changed and taken out. I have the press tool for that.
This one's already loose, huh?
Yeah, I already loosened everything up for them tomorrow to prep it.
Okay.
So it's all ahead of itself.
Nice. 240.
Yeah, in fact, even 1978. Was a 1978 244DL, the 2.1.
Okay.
Yeah.
2.1.
Yeah.
And this is Alex's GT.
This is Alex's GT at the
Right here,
restaurant.
242 GT.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's got the Swedish badge on it.
So 1978.
Nice. Nice New Mexico dryness.
Sat for
Barely had any rust.
14 years in the side of the house.
Some engine harness action from 240s or 740s.
Okay, this one right here. This one comes out of a this one here comes out of a 1979. This one came out of a 1979 245 station wagon.
Is that a good harness?
It's somewhat okay.
Well, I don't see no.
Yeah.
What year did they start that bad wiring? Was it in the early 80s or mid 80s?
About 86 to 89.
Oh, okay.
This one came out of an 88. You can see it caught on fire.
Oh my gosh.
That one caught on fire out of an 88.
All of the rubber coating, like
Yeah.
on those cars, if you took the rubber like this, the plastic coating or rubber coating on the wires and pinched it, it would just crumble off. So that stuff would crumble off in the wire harness sleeve and then catch fire and stuff.
Yeah, this one caught on fire.
Wow. I had a friend that her garage caught on fire because of one of those
Yeah.
740 harnesses. Hers was like a 86.
Yeah. And so this one came out of a 1990. This one came out of a 1992.
So that's a good harness.
Well, yeah, it's fairly good. So we just take them, we replace them. We replace them with the Dave Barton ones.
All right.
Yeah, but some of them are pretty old.
Dave Barton.
You see a lot of these are pretty old.
Dave Barton is now making 850 manual harnesses for people doing manual swaps and want to upgrade their harness.
Yeah, she was one that we actually
Cool.
cut off because it was just so pretty messed up.
All right. Well, as you guys could see, I did not end up doing anything with that engine. And for the sake of saving time and money, I'm probably going to pull the cylinder head off of Panther and drop it on that block after I clean that block up a little bit. Put a new water pump, timing belt stuff on that car, and then drop that thing into Panther when I get back. I'm going to try to pull the head without even removing the intake and exhaust manifolds. Just lift that head up off of there, clean up the bottom of it, drop it right on Panther. I shouldn't need to get it milled or anything. That head should be straight. If you don't overheat an engine, you shouldn't need to get it milled, but I'll check it for trueness the best I can and drop that thing on that block and press on with life. So that's what my plans is when I get back in a few weeks, and hopefully all that goes well. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video, and I hope you guys have a great week.